What's going on YouTube? Today I bring you a very surprising video, I know, to many. I know no one else is going to have this team this low, but especially with some of the news that's come out today, I have my number 16 power ranked team as the Green Bay Packers. This is a team that's in shambles right now. They're basically teetering on the edge of absolutely collapsing. They could be losing their two best players after this season, possibly even this season. And that would obviously be a gigantic impact to the organization as a whole. And as per usual, I know this is a team that, again, many people are going to disagree on their placement, but, it's just kind of how I feel where they should be right now, given what's happening. By the way, with Michael Thomas being hurt for probably around half the season, the Saints moved down to 20, and so then the Steelers and Broncos move up a spot. But, and actually, with the retirement of Vince Williams, the Steelers actually moved back down a spot, so the Broncos moved back up to 17. Steelers are 18. All that weird stuff. But without further ado, let's get into the Packers deep dive. So starting off the wide receiver room, this is where we first kind of take a look into what's happening. If you haven't heard the news, Davante Adams is having some contract issues. Now, I'm recording this a day out, so the news kind of just got dropped this morning. Perhaps there'll be an update, by the time this video drops. But as of right now, Davante Adams does not look to be a Packer longer than this year. There are no contract negotiations right now between him and the team. I've seen some rumors that he's not planning to sit out and that he's not demanding a trade, but he is going to be playing most likely his final year here in Green Bay. And I could definitely imagine that if Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, I could very well see Adams sit out, even if it is for a few games, because, Aaron Rodgers is arguably the best quarterback in the league. He's arguably the most talented quarterback of all time. So not having him be your quarterback for the first time in how long? I mean, he's always been his quarterback, I'm pretty sure. No, wait, hold on. So I just looked. I mean, yeah, he's been the quarterback for Davante Adams for his entire career, for 7 years. So I understand, to a degree, like you're downgrading from possibly the best quarterback in the league to probably the worst with Jordan Love. And yes, I do believe he is worse than Drew Lock, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. If you lose Davante Adams, that is a gigantic blow to this offense, especially if he sits out this year. Now, obviously, if he plays this year, whatever. I mean, you still have him there. He's one of the best receivers in football. Great. But if there's a legit chance that he sits out, that's very, very worrisome, because at that point, the best player on your offense is Aaron Jones. And no one else here is even close to elite. And Aaron Jones himself he's a top 10 running back, but he's 6 to 8 for me. Losing Davante Adams would be detrimental to this offense, and so that really hurts. Beyond there, if you do lose Davante Adams, you're just not in a good situation. You have a few guys that are fine, but they're not. You're not gonna start them normally. Allen Lazard is whatever. MVS showed some nice things last year, especially in the playoffs. Juwann Winfrey was a nice late-round pickup for the Broncos a couple years ago, but we've not really seen anything from him. You better hope to God that Devin Funchess ends up being something for you guys. Equanimeous St. Brown, you also got to hope he's something. And Amari Rodgers, unless he breaks out year one, I don't expect much from him, honestly. And I don't expect much from him in general, throughout his career. I thought it was a bad pick. But, this receiving room, it's headlined by Davante Adams right now, who is arguably the best receiver in football. But if he sits out this year, it's horrible for these Packers, and especially if he's not around much longer. I mean, you're in some deep issues because he himself isn't even on that big of a contract right now. That's the entire issue. Is he wants to be the highest paid receiver. The highest paid right now is DeAndre Hopkins at $27 million a year, so he's probably looking for $28 to $30 million a year. The Packers just simply don't have that kind of cap space now or the future. So unless they go really bad into the negative and have to redo a bunch of contracts, it would probably include redoing Bakhtiari's contract, which probably wouldn't make him the happiest because he wanted to be the highest paid tackle too. You got to pay Jair Alexander sometime soon. I mean, you're still trying to keep around Aaron Rodgers. You're still trying to upgrade the team in general. You just paid Aaron Jones a bunch of money, which I think was a big mistake. This Packers team are making a bunch of bad decisions right now, and it's kind of all leading up to Davante Adams after Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, so the receiving room right now is going to be an A-, just because, again, in terms of depth, it is a really good depth room, and you do have a really good receiver headlining it. But if you lose Davante Adams, that goes down to an F plus D- really quick. Left tackle, David Bakhtiari, great. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best tackle in football, third best offensive lineman in all of football. Behind him, you not really got anyone, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, like I said, it could be a bit of an issue if you have to redo his contract. That would not make him happy. I mean, he wanted to be the highest paid guy, so I don't think that'd be happy if you had to redo his contract. But for right now, he is the best tackle in football to me, and so that's going to earn you an A. Because there's no depth here, it's not an A+, but that is an A. Left guard, Jon Runyan is whatever. Now that I'm looking at it, they have Cole Van Lenen listed as a guard. For some reason, I think he's a tackle. So actually, if you switch Cole Van Lenen over there, I'll give that an A+ because I like the youth there with Cole Van Lenen. But at left guard, behind him, Bent Braden, and then Jon Runyan himself has just not been a very solid guy in general. Not someone you'd want starting for you. Definitely a downgrade over Lane Taylor. So it's a pretty bad room. Runyan's not horrible enough to earn this an F, especially since you do have at least a meh backup, but it's going to be a D- though. At center, you're probably starting Josh Myers. I don't imagine that Elgton Jenkins would be starting at center. He'll probably be starting at right guard. Josh Myers I was not a big fan of coming out of college. Never was a big fan, and there's definitely a chance he turns into something. The Packers are pretty good at developing O-linemen. I don't see that year one from him though. Behind him, Jake Hansen, whatever. It's a pretty poor room, especially year one. So once again, it's going to earn a lower grade. Probably, it's going to be a D+ for right now, just because you do have that youth and potential with Josh Myers. Again, Packers are good at developing those guys, but it's still definitely not a good room, especially year one. At right guard, that's where you're probably starting Elgton Jenkins, who has been a very, very good pass protector, but not the best run blocker in the world. For that, he's kind of right in the middle for me, where he's a pretty bad run blocker, but a really good pass blocker. Behind him, you don't really have anyone, honestly. You don't really have any depth beyond that. So it's meh, but because you have no depth, it's going to drop down to a C- for me. And then at right tackle, you're starting Billy Turner, who has been, he was actually really good in his first year. He was actually one of the most underrated players in football in his first year, and then he's just kind of, in his first year with the Packers, because he was with Denver before. Since then, he's really declined. He's still a serviceable enough guy, but he's just, at the end of the day, not someone you would ideally want starting for you. Because it was more in the times that he played behind Rick Wagner, he looked good. But as your full-time starter, you picked up Royce Newman to sit behind him, which does bring some nice, youth to the table, some nice upside. Again, they are good at developing these guys. But with just a very meh starter that you wouldn't ideally want starting, and, still a rookie at the end of the day, it's also very meh to me, but it's going to be brought down to a C- again. So you have Bakhtiari, who is a fantastic left tackle. He's the best tackle in football. But the rest of the offensive line is just so poor. It's so average. with Runyon just not being the best guy in general. And these, like I said, Myers, he's a rookie. I don't expect him to be anything year one. Jenkins is a fantastic pass blocker, but he sucks as a run blocker. He doesn't suck, but he's just not a good run blocker. And again, you would not ideally want Billy Turner starting for you. There's some nice youth here for sure, but this offensive line is not good. I see a lot of Packers fans in complete denial of really how bad this team is without Davante Adams or Aaron Rodgers. And the offensive line does not help. I mean, you downgraded big time by losing Lane Taylor, Rick Wagner, and Corey Linsley. You're going to feel those effects this year, especially if you have Jordan Love starting for you. Tight end. Your number one's going to be Robert Tonyan, who enjoyed a really nice breakout season last year. Does he keep it up without Aaron Rodgers? Which, I mean, if you haven't noticed by this point, I don't believe Aaron Rodgers will be playing there next season. Will he keep that up without Aaron Rodgers? Who knows? But he did enjoy a really nice breakout season last year. Your number two, Mercedes Lewis, is a pretty solid blocking tight end. He's not the best receiver in the world anymore, but he is solid to have as your number two. And then two other guys kind of behind him, Josiah DeGara and Jay Sternberger, whatever. They're fine enough as depth. I mean, it makes up for a really nice depth tight end room, but there's just no one here that's... Tonyan was solid last season. I think he's definitely a bit overhyped, especially considering the quarterback situation and the fact that if Adams doesn't play, he is the number one receiver on this team, so he'll play good, but I feel like he's going to be force-fed a lot and not going to look good at times. So overall, it's a nice depthy tight end room, but it's just, there's better, even if it is really good depth. So it's going to get a C+ for you right now. And then the quarterback position, the fun position on this team. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing there next year. I don't know if he's going to be traded or what, but I don't think he's going to play. To me, it feels pretty obvious that he's played his last snap with Green Bay. He's declined contracts to be the highest paid player. He's declined contracts that would keep him there for another 5 years. He just, every time he's asked about if he's returning, it's always, I guess we'll see. Doesn't sound very confident for someone who's going to be playing there next season. They've completely disrespected him as a player, and the fact that people really don't see that really is weird to me because I get that these are athletes and stuff, but at the same time, they're still human. They deserve respect at the very least. So I understand why Aaron Rodgers would not want to play there next year, and I don't think he will. Whether he goes to Denver or wherever, I don't think he'll play. So in that case, you're losing potentially the best quarterback in football right now and downgrading to potentially the worst quarterback in football. Jordan Love literally couldn't even win the backup job last year after the Packers traded up for him in the first round to be Rodgers' replacement. Do I need to say more than that? I mean, he's looked decent in practice, but I'm not someone that really goes off of practice that much. I mean, Drew Lock threw like 9 touchdowns in a practice last year, and Tua threw like 6 picks in a practice this year. I don't go off of practice that much. I think it's probably like the biggest downgrade you could possibly have in sports. I mean, it's at the quarterback position, again, from maybe the best to maybe the worst. This would, again, tremendously hurt the team, and especially if you're not starting Rodgers, if Adams decides to sit out, that hurts you even more. Behind him, I mean, Blake Bortles is Blake Bortles. I mean, Kurt Benkert is Kurt Benkert. I mean, that's probably the worst quarterback room in the NFL if you lose Aaron Rodgers. So it's an F. I mean, there's not much else to say. It's an F. And if Aaron Rodgers plays, God save the Packers, because that's a tremendous miracle if Aaron Rodgers does end up playing for Green Bay this year, which would definitely keep Davante Adams there for at least this year and obviously just help the entire team out as a whole. If Aaron Rodgers is there, it's an A, because Aaron Rodgers is arguably the best quarterback in football. If he's not there, it's an F. It's a gigantic downgrade. I don't believe he'll be there, which makes it a legit chance that Adams sits out. It makes this offense really poor. And then moving on to the running back room, this is easily the best room on the offense, especially if Adams and Rodgers isn't there. It's easily the best room on the roster. You have Aaron Jones, who's a top 10 guy. He's played really solid the last couple years. Behind him, A.J. Dillon, who was a very solid rookie. I didn't really understand keeping Aaron Jones. I would have much rather kept like Corey Linsley and Lane Taylor around. maybe got a receiver or something like that, then keep Aaron Jones, because A.J. Dillon showed some really nice things. So I really don't get paying that kind of money to a running back if it's not really what's the best for your team, and it was far from the best decision for this team. Regardless, though, it does make up for one of the best duos in the NFL. Behind them, Kylan Hill was a really solid pickup. So yeah, I mean, you have a really solid running back room here. Yay. That is not going to save this team. Like, maybe if you had Derrick Henry, and maybe, because even the Titans were like an 8-8 team with Derrick Henry. Aaron Jones is no Derrick Henry. So if you're relying on your running back to get you wins on the offensive side of the ball, being that the rest of the offense is just not good, and Aaron Jones again is just not Derrick Henry, that's not good for you. It's just not. So the running back room is really solid here. I am going to give it an A, but God, like, you can't rely on that to win you games this season. All in all, the big X factor, like, obviously here is Aaron Rodgers. If he plays, great. You're a 12-13 win team. This offense will definitely still at least be very good. Even if Adams sits out, I definitely still think they can definitely make the playoffs, obviously. But if Aaron Rodgers is sitting out, you're probably not making the playoffs. And if Davante Adams is sitting out as well, you're not making the playoffs. But now let's move on to the defense, which is looking much, much brighter, even though it's not that bright. Starting off with the defensive end room, I mean, it's not good. Dean Lowry is whatever. Tyler Lancaster is whatever. Kingsley Keke is whatever. There's no one here. It's definitely helped by the guy that's between them, Kenny Clark, who is a fine enough pass rusher. He's a very, very, very good run defender, but he's a fine enough pass rusher. He gets a decent amount of pressure and sack numbers. And they did pick up a nice young guy in Darrell Slayton, but like, this defensive line is not good. If you took away Kenny Clark, it's probably the worst defensive line in the NFL. So thank God Kenny Clark saves that. He brings that kind of run defense to this pass rush, while someone else brings the pass rush, the actual pass rush. We'll get to him later. But yeah, I mean, this defensive line, like, the defensive end room, I'm going to give an F because it's bad. The defensive tackle room, I'm going to give an A because Kenny Clark is good. You put it both together, it's a very not good defensive line room. So I mean, if I give the entire defensive line a grade B, like C-, probably, it's just not good. Left outside linebacker, I still feel like Preston Williams will probably be starting, and I'm actually a big fan of putting like Rashawn Gary at like defensive end, and that would massively help out the defensive line. I still think he'll probably be like backup to Preston Smith at least to start the season. Because Preston Smith has kind of declined, but he's still got a bit in him. He's only 24, so I'm pretty sure at least he's only 24. So, it's not in the fact that he's declined with age. He's just declined since that really good season. So, we'll see. I think Rashawn Gary will still be back up to start it out, but I'm also not a big fan of Rashawn Gary in general. I think he has a nice combination of like power and speed, and I do love that in pass rushers. I just don't think he knows how to use it all that well. I don't see a ton of upside with Rashawn Gary. So the defensive end room, I mean, you have a solid starter either way, and you have a really good backup either way. So it is a good room. It's going to get a B for right now, but there's just no one here special or anything as of right now. I mean, either one could return back to form, or Preston Williams could return back to form. Rashawn Gary could come into form. We'll have to see. At the inside linebacking room, you're going to have Devondre Campbell as your number one there. Devondre Campbell played really solid for the Cardinals at times last year. He'll easily be the best linebacker on this group. Behind him, you'll have Chris Barnes, who I think has a bit of potential. He's a pretty athletic guy, but I just, as the number two, he'll play better than the number one, but I don't know by how much more. Behind him, Kamal Martin, whatever. Isaiah McDuffie, I did like as a pickup. He's a nice little developmental piece there for the Packers. Overall, this linebacking room would probably be the worst in the NFL if they hadn't picked up Campbell. With the addition of Campbell, it'll bump you up to a C, but it's still not that good. And then the other outside linebacker room, starting at right outside linebacker, no one behind him, but Zadarius Smith is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He actually has, I believe, the highest rate of double teams of pass rushers in the last 2 years, which is incredible. the fact that he still puts up the production and numbers and pressure that he does against that. And really, that's because he's the only actually dangerous pass rush threat on this team, and yet he still gets the job done. You might start to see a trend here with some of the players. We'll talk about it later, but Za'Darius Smith is part of that trend. So Za'Darius Smith, he's a fantastic pass rusher. I mean, even though there's no one behind him, it's an A. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I will fight you on it, but he is fantastic. Then at quarterback, Jaire Alexander, fantastic. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, top 3. I don't think he's number 1, but you can definitely argue for number 2. He is fantastic. Beyond him, ouch. You brought back Kevin King on a bad deal, a really bad deal for Kevin King. Chandon Sullivan is not a good nickelback, not a good slot. You have you picked up Shamar Jean-Charles, which was whatever. I mean, Eric Stokes, I think, was one of the worst picks of the draft. I never understood why he went before Tyson Campbell. I would like this much, much better if they had taken Tyson Campbell. Eric Stokes is a zone corner. The Packers do not run mainly zone. So unless they change up their entire defensive scheme just to fit Eric Stokes, which I do not believe is going to happen, I believe Eric Stokes is going to be absolutely horrendous. He was great when he got to play in the zone. He was horrible when he got to play in man. So the fact that this is a man-first defense, I'm not looking forward to Eric Stokes playing on this defense. I hope they don't make him the number 2. I hope they at least try to develop him for a year or 2, because this guy is going to get destroyed if he is starting in this defense. So I did not like that pick. The depth here is really poor. Kevin King was brought back on a really bad deal. You have Jaire Alexander, who's a top 3 corner, but the room otherwise just sucks bad. So Jaire Alexander holds this up. It is a C+ just because of Jaire Alexander. But God, again, if they didn't have Alexander, it would be an F. This is bad. And once again, Jaire Alexander is part of that trend if you have yet to pick it up. Free safety, much better. Adrian Amos, he's a bit overrated. I mean, I see some people calling him this easy top 10 safety. I think he's right on the outside, 11 to 13 type safety. But he is a very solid guy. No one really behind him. At the other safety room, Darnell Savage was pretty good his rookie year and then kind of declined since. He's not really been anything else since that. Not really any depth beyond there, but you do have one of the best safety duos in the NFL. So that definitely counts for something. Even if you have poor depth and neither one is elite, in my opinion, you do have a really, really good safety duo there. So that is going to get you an A-. It's a really good duo, even if neither one's elite and there's no depth. It's an A-. So overall, defense, sort of similar to the offense. It's got, I guess I'll kind of say what that trend is now. If you haven't noticed, actually no, we'll go over that trend after the special teams. So let's talk about the special teams really quick. J.K. Scott, pretty good punter. Mason Crosby, pretty good kicker. And your kick returner, I mean, probably MVS, could be Devin Funchess as well, but probably MVS. Either way, the trend, if you haven't noticed it yet, is that this team is full of a bunch of top-tier talent and nothing else. I mean, look at the best players on this team. Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, Kenny Clark, Za'Darius Smith, Jaire Alexander, Adrian Amos. All of these are fantastic players, right? These are great pieces to have on a team. The Packers have done such a fantastic job surrounding Aaron Rodgers with talent. Why is he crying about anything? Because it's a top-tier heavy team. Beyond Davante Adams, this receiving room is horrible. Beyond Aaron Rodgers, this quarterback room is horrible. Beyond Kenny Clark, this defensive line is horrible. Beyond Za'Darius Smith, the pass rush is horrible. Beyond Jaire Alexander, the secondary is horrible. Do you see what I'm saying here? Yeah, they've done a great job finding 5 other players that are top-level players. I mean, yeah, Alexander's a top 3 safety. He's a top 3 pass rusher. He's a top 5 defensive tackle, right? These are fantastic guys, but beyond them, there's a bunch of holes, basically the entire rest of the offensive line. Tight end could definitely be a bit better, especially considering Rodgers probably isn't playing next year. The defensive line sucks besides Kenny Clark. I mean, linebacker room still sucks. Cornerback room is horrendous. If you don't get what I'm saying right now, you're never going to. Aaron Rodgers has a perfectly valid reason to be complaining right now. This team has done such a horrible job at actually building a team. They find great top-level talents like Za'Darius Smith, Jaire Alexander, and think that's just enough. There is no one beyond Davante Adams, even for how good Davante Adams is, and they refuse to get any help. What, Amari Rodgers in the fourth round is supposed to be like help? No, I'm talking about grabbing a guy like, I don't know, T. Higgins, Chase Claypool, maybe, I don't know, someone, just a receiver that's not, some guy in the third, fourth round. No, maybe don't trade up for Aaron Rodgers' successor. Like, I understand at the time it looked like maybe he was done, but like, come on, he just went to the championship again. Like, I don't understand the logic here. Like, you're surrounding him with great top tier talent, but the rest of the team is full of a bunch of holes and just absolutely sucky depth. I think Aaron Rodgers has every right to be complaining right now. The people that say, he's just being a crybaby and stuff, like, he is a human at the end of the day that deserves respect, and he's not been given respect despite being one of the best quarterbacks of all time. The Packers have done a horrible job at building this roster. If you don't understand that, you're just never going to, but that's what it is. So let's go take a look at their coaching schedule and culture. And taking a look here at their schedule, what would make it even more frustrating is that, honestly, they do not have the hardest schedule in the world. I mean, the Saints are not going to be very difficult now without Michael Thomas. Week 1, the Lions are not a typical game in general. The Steelers, Bengals, Bears twice, the Lions twice. I mean, these are easy games, to be honest. They should be easy games for a team like this. With at the end of the day, a really good offensive head coach. The coaching is not an issue. Matt LaFleur has been a great coach, even despite some very questionable decisions. For example, I don't understand having, maybe the best quarterback in the league and kicking a field goal and giving it back to the GOAT in a playoff game. I don't understand that. Besides that, Matt LaFleur has been fine. I don't think he's the issue. I think at the end of the day, the issue is the front office. They've failed to put a team around Aaron Rodgers. They refused to get him any help. They seemed very willing to move on. And then when he goes out and wins an MVP, now they don't know what to do. So they won't trade him, even though he's unhappy and wants to be traded. To me, I completely understand why Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. They don't respect him. They don't respect him. They failed to build a contender with him. This should have been a team that, should have gone on to win multiple Super Bowls, and they've been to one because their front office is just so incompetent. So for this team, if Aaron Rodgers sits out, I think you're already struggling to make the playoffs, especially if Davante Adams sits out, you're not making the playoffs. And for me, I think enough I've explained already with this is a top-heavy team with tons of holes, tons of sucky depth. It's not looking good for these Packers next year. But that is my number 16 power rank team for the 2021 NFL season. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but if you did like the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.